like reading books? What about books that you feel represents who you are and puts you in the and has an Indian context to it? Because you know, I heard very few Indian books. So, what about books that talk about and have your names? Kids with brown skin, kids who are eating hilsa. That doesn't. Would you? What is that? What's your take on that? How many of you like reading Indian authors?
Anyone of you wants to talk about,
Yes,
say
yes.
something about reading
Yes.
Indian authors? Anything you want to say? You would like to say something? Yeah, go ahead. Come.
Yeah, Anupam Kher is a very big Indian author. I like reading his books, especially like books like The Best Thing About You Is You. And like he describes his town very well, his grandparents and like his own life, his childhood, then like how he lived,
Thank you.
his neighborhood.
Just let me get this clear. Anybody else has a view on how, on Indian books, and when you're reading someone with a name like Moti Nandi, okay, and he's in Alipur, does that make you feel like the book is closer to you, or do you prefer reading about Harry Potter? I'm talking to children here. Yeah. Adults I can talk to anytime. You guys I don't meet. So do you feel anything like closer to a book, say, that has a name like yours? Yeah? Yeah.
Actually, speaking the truth, like I'm more inclined towards Bengali literature since I belong from Kolkata. So I've explored quite a lot of authors like Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay, then we have Bibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay, and also recent authors like Satyajit Ray, then we have Sunil Gangopadhyay. So I feel that Indian authors nowadays have we have reduced reading Indian authors by a great amount, and we have I believe that we should start with Indian authors.
That's a wonderful thing, I think. Andaleeb, would you like to come back in on, what was it like reading when you were a child? Before, which I think was before this happened, right?
Of
before
course,
we had
yeah.
all the reading
Yeah,
that we do
I think
now.
reading as a child, Reshma and I will share the same background. We probably, read...
Had these conversations multiple times.
Yeah, we probably read books, Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and Enid Blyton and all those kind of books, which were, I think, the only books available to us. The only Indian authors I read was R.K. Narayan, Ruskin Bond, which I think it continues even today. And the situation is really different now, and I'm hoping that it changes, the mindset of readers, young readers like yourselves who will pick up our books and read especially about people like us, which is what Jerry was talking about, where when he asked, how do you feel about reading about yourselves? Because when we are reading these books which were set in for a very different audience, but we are expected to immediately assimilate it and understand it, and which is great and fine, but it's also, there's something to be said for reading about your, I wouldn't say culture because it's a very huge word. I would say reading about people like us, people like you. My latest book, The Henna Startup, has a young girl who's, I come from Bangalore, which is like, the city of startups. And she sets up, so she makes this startup for her mother. An app actually, sorry. She makes an app for her mother, who is a henna artist. And a lot of people have reached out to me saying that this girl's journey is something that they understand. So she's a Muslim girl, but that experience of being a youngster on the cusp of adulthood and trying to see what works in life, it's universal. So I think it's wonderful. It would be wonderful if more young adults pick up our books and, see that Indian authors have so much to offer. Like Reshma mentioned earlier, we hardly heard any Indian authors. And those who spoke about Indian authors, I think those were the very handful, not even less than a handful. And we have some amazing Indian young adult authors. Two of us are sitting on the same stage. And we have Shabnam Hindwala, we have Bijal, we have so many wonderful authors who are writing for all of you. And I really think you should discover us.
Reshma, if you heard them, I think they were white men and they were Brahmin Indians. Is there any way you think you could help them decolonize the bookshelf? To explain that word, decolonize the bookshelf, if you read only about white people, you begin to put into your eyes and worse still into your brain a lens by which you see the world as if you are a white person. If you read only the Brahmins as you are reading, you begin to think of the world as a Brahmin world. This is not the way the world is. Okay? What is important, therefore, is then to look at your bookshelf and see whether it is only men, all men, white men, largely men, very few women. The women are only talking about romance. The only women that are there kind of at the corners. There are no Dalits, there are no Muslims, and your world gets narrower and narrower. Your view gets narrower and narrower, and you become a fascist. And this is a problem, because fascists never make money. They just make violence.
Okay,
Reshma.
let's make it a little lighter. Okay, lighten it.
No lighter.
No, okay. So I am. No. Yeah. I'm not. Oh, you want me to go down? Okay, fine. Let's go down. All right. So I am a product of a boarding school, Mallory Towers, colonized fiction person. Yeah. So you know what that did to me? When I was 14, I decided that after reading Mallory Towers, Nancy Drew, some Sidney Sheldon, some Jacqueline Suzanne, which I should not have read. I decided that Coimbatore was not cool enough. So I went to England to study, and I was a coconut for many years. Coconut, you know, coconut, white, brown. No, what? Brown on the outside, white on the inside, right? So, what I realized that happens is I knew more about scones and I went to boarding school. And I remember going to boarding school and saying, "Where are the scones in the midnight feast?" I did not, there was no midnight feast for me. There was only mutton samosa and very black coffee. So I think what Jerry's trying to tell you, and I do writing classes now, and whenever I do writing classes, all of you kids, when I ask you to create stories, you know what you give me? Ellen with blue eyes who lives in Chicago. You are not Ellen, you don't have blue eyes, and you don't live in Chicago. So why? Because you're reading about Ellen who has blue eyes and lives in Chicago. And what does that do to you? Is that it takes a long time for you don't know that it's happening to you, but you start to think that we don't have that much fun. We are not as cool. We are not as pretty, right? And it internalizes. By the way, you think you're not being, and by the way, it's not a thing, because a lot of these books, I love Harry Potter, I love Tolkien, I love Bronte, I love Bronte, I love all of that. And I'm sort of saying, reading that, what Jerry's trying to tell you is that you have and I think that we're not trying to push representation. I think we wish for there to be more representation in our books so that you do not become like us, which is, we have been raised on a different diet, and it's not a great diet. There has to be a mixed diet. So try and read things about, and again, similarly, The Lost Prisoner, the Hidden Children series it's about a Bengali girl, because I read Amitav Ghosh. Okay, here's why you need to read an Indian author. I read Sea of Poppies and it blew my mind, right? I came to Cal because then Nat Geo said, go write on Cal. I said, okay, commission a piece. Let me go stay in Cal for 2 weeks. I went to Blacktown. I did a great piece on Cal. I fell in love with Cal. I fell in love with Blacktown. I went and learned about babus. I learned about the old houses. I learned about the trees. I said, why haven't I read about a young Bengali girl? And I wrote about a young Bengali girl. And you know how many young Bengali girls have written to me saying that, oh my God, finally there's someone who eats hilsa in a novel. It's smelly and I love it. And there are boys, and I have a old woman who's a witch, but she wears a sari. And because saris are cool, samosas are cool, lace packets are cool. And I have wanted to see myself as well. I never saw South Indian girls in books. I didn't know, nobody said that there was a girl called Nalini who can be in a book. And there are Christian boys in books, and there are Muslim girls in books. And you know what? They all talk to each other and they're really happy. And because that's how I grew up. And so I think it's important for you, and because what we heard is great. I mean, we should be reading all of that. But it's also important to read Bijal, to read Andaleeb, to read, there's another great Saksham. Have you heard of Saksham Garg? Yeah, great, read Saksham. Read, he's also written a great, there are so many young adult novelists, so many adult novels that, and women and men, that will bring a little bit of, you'll hear about Nilgiri. Some of you know about, the people who don't know. So you learn about our geography, you learn about our culture, and you'll think that we are really cool, and you'll start to not be so confused, and your identity will be strong. You'll still be confused, but it'll be an Indian confusion. So,
Okay, we're all going to come and sit here. And
sitting here.
what we're going to do now is, because we've talked enough, we want you to ask questions. This is an AMA. You can ask us anything. Not a problem. And that's Bijal over there. Bijal, stand up and wave at them. Yeah, Bijal. Please clap for Bijal. Thank you. Now clap for Reshma. And then clap for Andaleeb. Yeah? Okay. Having finished all the clapping and all, we got that out of the way. Now ask a question. Yeah. Yeah. You'd have thought. Yeah, anyway. So come on. Anyone's got a question? First 3 questions will go to women. Young women. So yeah, go ahead.
Would you rather stop reading or stop writing?
Would I rather stop reading or stop writing? Well, actually, okay, the difficult one would be to stop talking. Okay, that would be the most difficult thing of all. But I think all communication, I'd rather stop writing than reading, because reading is like lifeblood. Writing is like tatti. Right? I'd rather get my lifeblood in, and I think a little constipation is okay. It happens to every Indian. Next question.
He knows we can't answer this.
It's not really a question, but when Reshma was talking about and you all were talking about decolonizing your bookshelf, I personally I've never gravitated towards Indian authors, because when you're reading Western authors, it's kind of easier to dissociate from that character, so you can critique it more. So when I'm reading Jane Austen and I see the characters, it's easier for me to not only dissect, but when I'm seeing myself in a character, it's hard for me to dissect, because you have to introspect. Priyanka, I'm from South City International.
Nice to meet you, Priyanka. Do you have a response to that, Andaleeb?
I think that's a very interesting point, you know. I would never have thought of it that way. But I also think, you know, that that sort of, when you keep doing that, you kind of keep closeting yourself. And, you know, eventually when you do step out of that, it's going to be a big shock. So I think, you know, you need to start acclimatizing yourself to the world around you and read about, I think, reading about people like us doesn't always have to be with a critical eye, you know. I mean, we are writing interesting and fun books. So it's not about necessarily it has to be, you don't have to critique the books and feel, or critique the characters' decisions. You can just enjoy the books because they're very entertaining in their own way.
Okay. But anyone, a third young woman to ask a question. Will you or will you? You? Go ahead. Don't worry about it. Just say it.
Should I stand? Okay, I'm Ashmita Datta from South City International School. So while some people don't like to read that much, I've always gravitated towards books, and to an extent that I often get addicted to the books, and I keep on continuously reading. Like whenever I'm upset, I'm grabbing a book. Whenever I'm bored, I'm immediately going to my bookshelf. So would you say that is to what extent would you say it is a healthy habit, and would at some point it become unhealthy? Or would it be
Okay, so I'll take this.
Reshma.
So with my nephew, my nephew used to read so much that my husband he'd be at dinner, he'd be reading, he'd be lying on the bed and with his legs up and reading, and at some point he said, Kabir, just stop, you are alienating yourself from the world. We do have this, parents have this sort of bias towards reading, but we're completely fine with you reading all the time, but to put the screen on, oh my God, it's an hour, we'll shut it off. I think any obsession is an obsession. I think just reading is a good obsession. I used to be like that. So if I find a genre, if I find a book, and then I will just continue reading that book. I remember, I think when I reread the entire Harry Potter series, when I was doing an IPO, I used to be an investment banker, and I used to read the Harry Potter series in the breaks between whenever the meetings were not on. Again, and I was 27 years old, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think like any obsession, you should curtail it because you sort of get it you unable. It's taking you away from the world. It's very important for you to be in the world so that you live a full life. That said, nobody will ever say reading is bad. And
I am telling
I
you,
just want to add one thing to
real
this.
life sucks.
Jerry,
Books don't.
all of us will
I just want to add one thing to this. Since you're talking to readers, writers who are readers, who are really very, a couple of years ago, I was admitted into the hospital for COVID. And while I was going, the only thing that I took with me was my phone charger and my Kindle. I didn't even take my toothbrush. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. I reached the hospital and I realized that the situation is very dire. I'm here because of COVID actually. And why did I think it was a vacation that I could read? I don't know. And then I had to tell my husband, please pack all my things and send it to me. So you can imagine the level of obsession. So it's okay.
I came for 3 days to Calcutta. I brought 9 books. And on the way out, I panicked that I might finish them. So I put 2 more in. Okay, now I have 11 books with me. I've read 5. Okay, yeah. So I'm also, now the young men can ask questions. No. Yes. You drew attention to yourself, darling. I was not going to come and ask you. You don't have, give this guy his school leaving certificate, he's done. 10th standard finish, he has no more questions.
Any tips for young writers?
Lovely question. Go for it. Total super spotum, na? Like you just thought of it on the moment and said, "Chal, kuch bhi bol yaar, jaldi kar." He's come with his mic. Tips for young
Keep
writers.
reading, I mean, if you can't be a writer if you don't read. I come across so many people who want to have written books, but they don't want to read. Yeah, adults. Children, I think this is a time, I mean, we wouldn't be here writing books if we hadn't been reading so much. So reading is the first most important tip. And observe life, don't get completely lost in your phones and your books, even books also. So just be a little bit more observant of life. And I think that's, and keep practicing. Any tips from the creative writing?
2 tips, yeah? The first tip is steal. You are a thief. Look at your entire world around you. And if you really want to be a writer, you steal from everything. You steal people's names, you steal people's stories, you steal people's context, you steal everything. I steal all the time. My friends are really worried. Most of the time they have like family, friends, is she going to use us in the next book? Do show, don't tell. Even if you don't worry about your English, but make sure you are creating, if you're writing anything, just, make sure that people can see it when they write it. It'll make anything better. Any line will be better if you just bring it color, senses, yeah? Anything. Don't worry about the English, just be fine. So that's my second tip.
Ma'am, what is your opinion about fan fiction? Does it...
The question is good. What is fan fiction? What is your opinion of fan fiction?
I think fan fiction is, as a reader, I'm very interested in it myself. But as a writer, I don't know how I would feel about people. I mean, okay, I'm not that big a writer that people will use my characters to write fan fiction.
You have a hint. Everybody.
It's a very
and
big...
then Andaleeb arrived. She was wearing her trademark black.
See, so fan fiction is huge actually. If you see, if you just Google for Relo fan fiction, you will see that. How many of you know that? How many of you are aware of Relo fan fiction? A few.
Who is Relo?
Someone please tell.
Who is Relo?
So that is, what are the names that make up Relo? Please, someone tell me. I'm just very new to this. That's the Star Wars thing, So very famous books which were recently published, like The Love Hypothesis and so many other books.
Twilight had so much fan fiction.
Fan fiction related. So fan fiction is huge and I honestly don't know how I feel about it. So this is my answer. I don't know how I feel about it.
How do you feel about it, young man? Oi there. What do you think of fan fiction? But quick answer, huh? Like 2-3 lines.
say they can be quite entertaining to read, but they sort of do mess up the original universe.
The very interesting thing is how, when you know something is bad for you, you're reading it with greater and greater interest. Like it just becomes addictive because it's like, this is so bad. But what did she? Oh, she did that? Oh my God. Can you even do that? I didn't know. That's the thrill of that kind of fiction. Ma'am, stage manager Ji, how much time do we have left? One more question, two more questions maybe? Two more questions, okay. Yeah.
My name is Antara Sitaraman from South City International School. My question is, have there ever been any accidental causes in your life, like you didn't mean to do it or something just happens and that gave you an idea for a book?
All the time. All the time, literally. I mean,
Tell one, na? Tell one.
yeah, so something fell from it. Yeah. So,
Pants.
so something accidental you're saying. Yeah, so I was passing through Tannery Road, which is a locality in Bangalore, and I just thought, imagine if a girl had to live here all the time, she'd go crazy. And that's how my book Asmada's Summer happened. And, so many, I mean, it's not necessarily crazy. It's the day-to-day things, actually, which kind of, when you're a writer, even the day-to-day small things can trigger this whole what-if thing, and you end up writing a book.
Reshma?
Yeah. So Fade into Red, which was my first book. I was still a banker at the time, and came down one day. It's Bombay monsoons, like it's lashing down, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get to work, and a coconut has fallen on the windshield of my car. Right, I have no windshield. So I get in and I'm wearing a white shirt. And so I get in and I have to be at work because it's a really important meeting. So I'm driving to BKC from Bandra, Mount Mary Road. The wind is lashing in and the watchman comes and says, put a white sheet on it. So white plastic sheet on it. So I've got tarpaulin flying and I'm literally flying in my car on my way to work. I'm wet, I'm drenched by the time I get in. My entire white shirt is drenched. And from there came Fade into Red because that was the first scene of my book. So that's it.
Good morning. My name is Yashika Nath. I'm from South City. How do you make your writing more captivating? Like sometimes I write a scene, it just feels flat. It's really boring.
Show, don't tell. Just take the surround system. All you need to give your reader is a surround system, right? And also the reader is the final. You're writing for someone at the end of the day. So read it back out to yourself. Ask yourself, what can I just surround? What are the senses I can use? Because if the work is good, then just add color to it, add life to it, sound, touch, smell, sight, all of that, and then it'll be fine. It's simple.
And just to add to that, I think if your characters have some really strong stakes, high stakes and motivation, that makes a lot of difference in where the story is going. If your character is just getting up, going to school every day, but then if your character gets up and the entire family except this character has been kidnapped, and you're supposed to find out what happened. So you raise the stakes and things immediately become interesting.
Conflict.
Economy. When you are looking at anything you have written, does it have a role to play in your story? If it has a role to play because there's a clue hidden there, there's a character motivation described, it stays. If you just wrote it, you can't love it just because you wrote it. You learn to kill your darlings.
Yes, kill your darlings. Who said that?
Yeah, Hemingway, but do not tell it to your parents. Might not be a good idea. At the end of this session, I'd like to thank you for being a wonderful, committed audience, for paying attention, for talking. Now let's up the stakes and make you from a wonderful, committed audience into the kind of audience that these young ladies will remember forever, because you will go now to the bookshop and you will buy their books and you will line up and you will get their books signed by them, and when you are old and grey and full of sleep and nodding by the fire and you take down this book and you put it on eBay or whatever the thing is, then it sells for millions of dollars and you buy yourself a trip to the moon. Thank you all very much.
Mars.
We enjoyed talking to you. I hope you enjoyed talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry,
kids.
for making this so much more entertaining than it would have been
Yes,
with
I
just
agree.
me and Reshma.
Can I just have the mic for a minute? So I hope you
all know where the book.
And you will notice I don't preach, I also practice. I bought their books and I got them to sign them already. So I'm sorted for my trip to the moon. You guys go do your thing now. A good book publishing website where you can publish your book, they are all cheats. They will all make your parents pay huge amounts of money. They will do no work for you. You will get 500 copies of the book. They will lie in your house collecting dust. You will start giving them away as birthday presents. Your friends will stop inviting you to birthday parties because they'll say, again, she's giving one copy of that book. Again, that book is coming. I don't know how to tell her it is such a terrible book. Please be patient. Be patient because you have never read a book that you enjoyed which was written by a 14-year-old. Have you read a book that you enjoyed which was written? Yeah, shut up. What? Anna Frank, but look at the life. Like seriously, look at that. Do you have that life? Were you locked in in an attic and were forced to eat one potato every day? Of course it's and did you die at the age of, if Anna Frank was alive today, you might not read that book. Anna might have just said, no, it's my diary, I'm not publishing. She died and someone else took it out of her hands and her father and published it. So like Anna Frank, it's like look at all of you in South City International School with your blazers on. And your parents paying like huge amounts of money. Anna Franca for sooth. But anyway, so be patient, wait your time, bide your time, do your writing, publish when you're 35 at least. Don't talk now.
I have.
Doesn't want